Based on our research, there are 5 major providers that administer Excel tests globally: Indeed.com, IKM, SkillCheck, Eskills.com, and then Kinexa. They work with the global companies like Amazon, BBC, Walmart, Accenture, Deloitte, and Home Depot, and a lot of others to test candidates' knowledge of the application. Typically, employer sends a request to the provider asking them to evaluate potential candidate. Provider then contacts the candidate and arranges the test. Each provider typically has an area on their website where you can learn about the types of tests they administer and also review sample questions. There are also smaller providers that do administer tests, and there's a small chance that your assessment test might be with them. Depending upon the position candidate is applying for, you'll most likely face a pre-employment Excel test with various levels of difficulties. Microsoft Excel employment tests can be categorized into at least 3 levels of complexity: basic Excel test, intermediate Excel test, and advanced test. Welcome to online training for everyone. I'm about to show you top 10 intermediate Excel test questions with answers, demos, and explanations. I will also share with you some tips, tricks, and hacks on how to best prepare and pass the test. These questions are in no particular order, so please make sure to watch the entire video to test your Excel knowledge and get ready for Excel test in the interview. Knowing answers to these questions helped a lot of people, and I'm pretty sure it will help you as well. Take a moment to click the subscribe button at the bottom of the screen and make sure to like, share, comment, and ask me any questions you might have. I'm happy to answer every question I receive. And now, let's go ahead and get started. Let's look at the question which tests your knowledge of Microsoft Excel charts and graphs. Which chart among the option is the best for showing time-based data? And the key here is time-based data. So, as always, with any questions related to Microsoft Excel and Excel test, just pay to every little detail on the question itself. And we have 4 choices: column chart, bar chart, radar chart, and then line chart. Which one would you choose? Which one do you think is the right option? Let's look at some considerations and a little description of the charts, which might be helpful. So column chart creates a bar for each data point. Similar like a column chart, the bar chart also creates a bar for each line of the data. And then radar chart is used for demonstrating the data in 2 dimensions. Now let's go into Excel and look at how would we pick the right answer among these 4 choices. So the correct answer is line chart. And the reason it is a correct answer is because that's the chart that best represents quantities sold over time. So let's look at how you can add the line chart here. So you select the data range, you navigate to insert, and then you pick the line chart tab, and then you have multiple different choices. And then you basically will format the chart after you inserted the type that you like. To this chart on the screen, I added the background. I made the line a little bit thicker, but you see that January through June, it shows the quantities that have been sold and how they increase over time. And the important point is it's not a cumulative number of units sold. It just increases over time. So you see in January we had 2 items sold, and in June it increased to 5 items sold per day. And that's what this chart shows. We go from 2 to 5. And keep in mind there is a practice chart for you, so you can practice generation of the chart, and make sure to download this practice worksheet. Now let's go back to the PowerPoint slide, and I'll explain you why other choices were not the correct choices. So as you have figured it out by now, the correct answer is D, which is the line chart. And then the reason it's the correct answer because other choices are incorrect, and that's definitely the best way to display time-based data. So what we know is that column chart creates individual bars, and it's not good for displaying time-based data. And bar chart does the same. And then radar chart is best used for comparing the data, and it's not a good choice for displaying time-based data. So correct choice is D, line chart. Hopefully you've got it right. Can I ask you to do me a favor? If you like the content, please give this video a big thumbs up to tell us that you need more content like this. And now let's continue and get you ready for the test. Very frequently, you might be asked how to solve specific problem during Excel assessment test. For example, in this question, you will be asked how to calculate total units sold by Jason. And you present it with the table down below, which shows months, salesperson, and number of units sold information. One of the salespeople here is Jason. But there are also other salespeople. And the question is, what would you use? How can you find out total numbers of units sold for JSON? And the presented choices is multi-sum, sum if sum function, or sum formula. Which one would you use? Typically in Excel, when you have no conditions, you can just use sum function and calculate total of sum of values. In our case, we do have one condition, as we need to calculate units sold for JSON. And for that, we would need to use sum if function. This is how sum if function will look like to calculate the required values. We have a range of B2 through B11, which is the names of salespeople, and we are finding values for JSON, which is the value of A15. And then we're getting the sum of values in the column C with the range of values C2 through C12. So when we hit enter to complete the calculation, for JSON, 361 units have been sold. So the correct value for this question is value B, sum if function, because sum if function used to calculate sum of values when you need to calculate sum with one criteria condition. And this is the syntax of the formula that you can use. Very often, you might be tested on your knowledge to manipulate Excel strings. This is a sample question in this category. Which formula is used to make first letter in a word uppercase? What we see here on the screen, in column A, all values are lowercase. In column B, the same values represented with only first character uppercase. And there are 4 choices presented: A, proper, first upper, left up, and uppercase. Which one would you choose? The correct answer here is to use proper function, and this is the syntax. All you need to do is type the function and reference the cell, in this case it's cell A3, which contains the original value. And you see that the value was converted with the first letter being uppercase and the remaining letters in the word being lowercase. If you need to expand this function, you can use copy and paste or just drag it to represent updated values in all the cells in column B. So the correct answer here is choice A, proper, and then you reference the original value from original cell. Let's look at the question, which Excel formula would you use in one cell to generate random numbers between 200 and 500 in the range between B2 and F13. And it shows you a sample of the random values, which has values after decimal point, and the range we're looking at between B2 and F13 populated with the numbers in the predefined range. And there are 4 choices. We have rand, rand between, rand array. All 3 of those are valid Excel functions. And in the choice D, none of the above. So how would you answer? What do you think is the right choice? And if you followed along during the practice exercise, you probably learned that the rand array is the right function. And the key here is that it asks in one cell. So to use the rand array function, you will use this syntax. You will specify how many rows will you need to add, how many columns, which is 5 in our case, what is the range of values, 200 through 500, and then you will decide if you want any values after the decimal points. And if we hit enter, it will populate our values with the random numbers in the predefined range. You probably can consider other functions like rand or rand between as valid choices to answer this question, if there wouldn't be a statement here to use in one cell. Because rand array really expands, you put it in one cell and then expands into the other cells to populate all the required values. So the correct choice here is rand array, and all other choices are designed to trick you. Very frequently, you might be presented with the question that tests your knowledge of Excel function. For example, which function returns the leftmost 3 characters from the cell A2? And you're presented with the screenshot, or maybe without screenshot. In this case, screenshot shows 4 cities in the column A, and you need to calculate the value in the column B. And the choices presented are get function, retrieve function, left function, and then left char function. Which one would you choose? To get the leftmost characters from the string, you need to use the left function. When you type left, it shows you the function itself and what it does, and it returns the specific number of characters from the start of the text string. And left part is typically where string starts. When you open up parentheses of the left function, you see that you should supply the text cell where text is located, which in our case is cell A2, and a number of characters that you're trying to get from the string, which in our case is 3. And once we hit enter, it shows you that it extracted 3 characters from Milwaukee, which would be MIL. You can replicate this function on the rest of the cells in the column B, and you will get first 3 characters from the cities Chicago, Detroit, and Atlanta. So the correct answer here is C, which is left, and then in parentheses you specify where the original value of text is located. And after the comma, you specify how many characters you would like to extract from the start of the string. Let's look at the question where you will be tested on your knowledge of VLOOKUP, index, and match functions. For example, the choice you need to make calculates relative position of an item in the range or a table, which is the same as specified value in the specified order. And you have 4 choices: VLOOKUP, match, index, and an index plus match. Which one would you choose? For example, if we type the formula for match, you will see that we're trying to look up the value in E2 cell within the range of A2 through A6. Once we click enter, you will see that the calculated value in the index is 3, because bananas are number 3 within the range of A2 through A6. Now if we change bananas to pears, you will see that the pears will have match value of 4 because they are 4th on the list in the same range. As you can see, the correct answer is B, which is match. And match is an Excel function to calculate relative position of a lookup value in a row, column, or a table. And match supports approximate or exact matching. In the combination of index match, match is used to calculate the position, and index returns the value of that position. Let's look at the question that tests your knowledge of Microsoft Excel formulas and functions. One of the options presented is not like the others. Find the odd one. So which one would you choose? Option A, we have some function. B, also some function, but lists the value. Then you have choice C, which is we're adding 5 values. And then choice D, which is sum of B2, comma B6. So which one do you think is the right choice here? What's interesting about this question, it's designed to confuse you. The question designed to confuse you because 3 of the answers do have some function, and answer choice C does not have the sum function. So you might be leaning toward this one because it's an odd one, right? But really the question is looking at the results and your knowledge of Microsoft Excel formulas and functions. For example, sum B2 and B6 will lead you to one certain answer, same as choice B, which is the sum B2, B5, B4, B1, and B6, right? So same range, B2 to B6, which would lead you to the right answer. Interesting thing is that the odd one is the one that doesn't lead to the same sum of the values, to the same result, which is choice D, because in that choice only 2 values are being added, B2 and B6. In all other options, in all other choices, A through C, all B2 through B6, which is B2, B3, B4, B5, and B6 values are being added, and then it results in the sum. So the odd one here is choice D, and it is the odd one because it only adds 2 choices instead of adding all 5 choices. Hopefully you've got this one right, because that was a tricky one. I'd like to ask you to participate in our daily Excel assessment test challenge. I post new question every day in the community tab of this channel and give you an opportunity to answer this and try it. And I post the answer in the comments next day. So please make sure to check it out and test your knowledge. And now let's continue and get you ready for the test. Now let's look at the Excel test question that is frequently used at LinkedIn or Indeed.com or other types of tests, and tests your knowledge of number formatting. How would you modify the cell so that the cell containing the value 8.856 displays as 9? And you have 4 choices. Click decrease decimal button twice, click decrease decimal button 3 times, click increase decimal button twice, and then use round function. Which one do you think is the right choice? One thing I'd like to point out here in these types of questions, we only change in display value, and it shows displays as 9, so we're not trying to change the actual value here. So keep that in mind as you think of the right answer. So in Microsoft Excel, in the Home tab, in the Number section, there are 2 buttons. One button you have increased decimal, and another button is decreased decimal points. I'm going to jump to the correct answer right away, which is decrease decimal point button 3 times. That's what you need to click. So if we go here and then we click not increase button, but decrease decimal points, and we click it 3 times, then we get to the value 9 as it decreases these 3 digits after the dot, and we have this final value of 9 after clicking it 3 times. And there are also other choices displayed here and results that they lead to. For example, display value adjustment, decrease decimal button twice, so we still have dot 9 after the dot, right? Or increase, we're actually adding 2 zeros, or using the round function, which is, in our case, we're not changing just the display value, we're changing the underlying value itself. And obviously there are some practice exercises for you, so you can download this worksheet and practice with the link right in the description of this video. And as you might have figured out by now, the correct answer is B, which is click decrease decimal button 3 times. And other choices are incorrect, and here I show the reasons why they're incorrect, and we just covered them in Microsoft Excel. Hopefully you've got this one right. A lot of you are interested and asking me, how can I help others? One of the ways you can help other people is by sharing the latest questions that you see on Excel interview and assessment test, and how you answered them. Please share the questions you recently encountered in the comments section of this video. If you know the answers, please share them as well. And now let's continue and get you ready for the test. Here's the question that tests your knowledge of how well you know data integration and how well can you write formulas that reference other worksheets in Microsoft Excel. Which formula can be used to get value of a cell A1 from the sheet named value sheet? And then there's an example, value from the value sheet, right? And you have 4 choices. In the first choice, you use value sheet name, exclamation mark A1. In the choice B, you have value sheet minus A1. Choice C, value sheet at A1, and there's no space here, so gotta keep that in mind too. And then choice D is value sheet with the space, and then you have exclamation mark A1. So choices D and A look very similar, but this one has single quotes around the value sheet, and choice A doesn't have single quotes. So what do you think is the right answer here? As you can see here in Excel itself, the correct choice is in single quotes value sheet exclamation mark A1. So let me walk you through the logic here. So we have value sheet tab, right? But because the sheet name has a space, you need to include it into single quotes. And then to reference the value, you always put exclamation mark and then the cell A1, which if we navigate to value sheet would be value right from here from A1. And there's a practice sheet for you, so you can download this Excel workbook. Just follow the link in the description of this video so you can practice this particular exercise on your own and come up with answers from value sheet as well. And as we go back to the document, you see that the correct choice is value sheet in single quotes A1, which is choice D. And it explains here why other choices are incorrect and what's going to happen if you use those. In the case of value sheet A1, it's going to show an error because you cannot use space. And if you use space in the sheet name, then it has to be in single quotes. This one is just a name, a minus. It's a formula ultimately, but there's nothing here referencing value sheet minus A1, so it's going to be an error. And value sheet without the space, colon A1 is also incorrect because colon is not the right reference to reference the sheet. So I am pretty sure you got this one correctly. Let's see how well you know Excel data formatting feature, specifically for custom formatting. Here's the question. Which number format will display the cell A2 as January? And there are 4 choices. 4Ms-YY, B 4Ms, C 3Ms, and then D 5Ms. Which one do you think is the right one? If we look in Microsoft Excel, we're looking to convert from this date, which is in cell A2, to the value that would be in the cell E. And I'm already disclosing you the answer. So which is January, which is correct, right? And you know the B is correct answer now. But how we got here, let's take a look. To navigate from this cell E2 and see what kind of formatting is being used here, we click on the types of the format and then click on the more number formats, and we see that this is a custom format that's being used, and it shows 4Ms. And what you see here, there's a sample box here, right, in this dialog box, and there are multiple ways to get to this particular dialog box. But if you have 4Ms, then you will get January. If you get 3Ms, for example, you will only get 3 letters of the month. And if it's a 5Ms, you will only get J. So the key is to know the correct answer here. If we click OK, you see the other choices. A, for example, would lead us to this type of answer. B is the correct choice. C is 3 letters, and D would be just 1 letter, J, for the month of January. And as always, in the same worksheet, I have a practice area where you can just take the data here and practice and have your own formats ready. So make sure to take advantage of this. You can download the practice worksheet by following the link in the description of this video. Going back to the question, the correct answer is B, and other answers on the list just designed to trick you. Can I ask you to do me a favor? If you know someone who is getting ready for interview or Excel assessment test, please share this video with them. This is going to help them pass and get their dream job. I really appreciate it. Thank you. And now let's continue and get you ready for the test. Here is the question to test your knowledge of Excel formulas and functions. Which function will return the largest value from cell range A2 through A5? And if you look in the print from the screenshot that we see A2 through A5, they contain 4-digit numbers. And there are 4 choices that you have: maximum for the same range, large for the same range, comma A1, max A2 through A5, and then upper A2 through A5. Which one do you think is the right choice? And as you're probably well aware, you can type the function max by yourself manually by putting the cursor here and then typing max and then selecting the values from this range A2 through A5, and this will calculate after you close the parentheses. Or if I delete this or undo using the quick toolbar, you can also put the cursor here and select the auto sum, and max is one of the functions that used in auto sum, and then it by default offers you the larger range, but we're only looking through A2 through A5, and then you hit enter and it calculates the value. So as you can see, the correct choice here is C, but other functions here on the list, some of them do not exist. Like an example of the maximum function, large will give you an error because there's an extra argument here, so it's not gonna get you the right answer. And upper is used for converting text to uppercase, so which is not the right choice here. So hopefully you got this one right. A lot of people ask, how can I help on this channel? One of the best ways to help is to help other people answer the questions that they're getting. If you know the answer to the question that you see in comments, please post the answer in the comment section of this video. And now let's continue and get you ready for the test. It is very unlikely that you will get away on the test without having a question on VLOOKUP function or its replacements, index and match, or question that will test your knowledge of offset function. So let's look at one of those questions that you might get. Which function can return the cell value which calculates the number of rows and columns away from a base cell? And you have 4 choices which sound familiar: index, VLOOKUP, offset, and match. Which one do you think is the right one? As you might have figured out by now, the correct function is offset, and if you look here in the syntax, it has 3 required values: reference, rows, and columns. So we have a reference, which is cell A2, and then we need to do offset by 2 rows and then do an offset by 1 column. So the correct version of the formula will look like this: offset, then we have base reference A2, 2 rows and 1 column, and what's going to happen, it will take this as a base cell and it will calculate location of the new cell, which would be B4 in our calculations, and it will bring the value from B4 into the cell A6. So once I hit enter, it brought the value correctly into the cell A6. Going back to our original question, you see that the choice C is offset, which is the correct choice here. And you can see that index function is not correct. VLOOKUP function is also not correct, and the match function would be incorrect as well because it matches and indexes position of a match in a given row or a column range. I'm pretty sure you got this one right. This was a tough one. This is more of the advanced question, and you need to have a knowledge of index, VLOOKUP, match, and offset, and kind of understand the differences between those 4 choices. Let's look at this question, which you might see as part of Indeed assessment test or LinkedIn assessment test. How would you add a chart in a cell to show sales data for the last 12 months? And then there are 4 choices that you're presented with. Add an image of the chart in the cell, add comments and add chart to that, hyperlink to the chart on another sheet, and then the last one, add a sparkline, a graphic that shows a sales graph. Which one would you choose? Which one do you think is the right answer? Let's look at this Microsoft Excel example. You have a table which has the product names, Apple iPhone and MacBook Air, and then you have month in a year from January until December with certain sales values. And then you have a space here in one cell where you would need to insert a chart. The best way to represent the data of the sales from January until December would be sparkline. To insert a sparkline, you put the value, the cursor on the cell where you would like to insert it, then you click on Insert, and in the sparkline section there are 3 different choices for sparkline. So let's start with line. You choose a line and then you select the range, which would calculate the value of sparkline, and then you put the location range, which is in our case is 04, so which is correct, and we can click OK, and you see that Excel inserted the sparkline. Another way to insert sparkline would be to use a bar chart sparkline, which is a little bit different. Let's go ahead and do it. To do it, we'll put a cursor into the cell 05 and then go to Insert, Sparkline, and we'll call it Column Sparkline. And then we'll select the range in the row 5, and then we'll confirm that location would be 05. Click OK, and then you see that this is the bar sparkline or column sparkline. Now you have different styles here. You see that the context sensitive menu appeared for sparkline, and you have different choices. You can indicate high point, negative point, and use other features, maybe marker colors. So play with those features as you answer the questions. You can always download the practice file, which I give with this set of questions. So make sure to take advantage of that so you can have a way, and there's a room for you for the practice files right here in this tab in Excel. As you might have figured by now, the correct answer is D, which is add sparkline, a graphic that shows in the cell graph. Now, adding an image would not look good as it's not going to be legible, so that's not a valid choice. You also need to understand that the comments in Excel do not have ability to add the charts. And then hyperlinking defeats the purpose of the question, as we're supposed to add chart in a cell. So make sure to pick a sparkline as a valid choice for this type of question. Hope you've got it right. Now let's look at the typical questions that tests your knowledge of Excel formatting features. Which option can we use if the text in the cell is being cut off and we want to see all the text without increasing the width of the column? And there are 4 choices: wrap text, wrap column, change alignment, and then fill handle. Which one would you choose? Which one do you think is the right answer? If text in Microsoft Excel is longer than the cell itself, for example in the case of cell A5, it continues to flow in the same row. The best way to address this is the wrap text feature. You just need to put your cursor into the specific cell and then click wrap text. And once you do that, the entire text will fit, as Microsoft Excel will extend the cell to fit the size of the text. So this is the wrap feature, and I also have some practice exercises for you. So make sure to download this practice workbook so you can practice answering this question. So the correct answer here is A, which is wrap text. And let's look at other choices that have been presented here in the questions: wrap column, change alignment, and then fill handle, and why they're not the right choices. So wrap column is not a valid feature in Microsoft Excel, and then changing the alignment will only move the alignment of the text, and some text will still be cut off. And then fill handle is used to drag formulas or cell content down, and it's not going to help us. So those choices presented, B through D, are just designed to trick you, and hopefully you pick the right one, which is the A, wrap text. Why you might consider subscribing to this channel. This is one of the fastest way to learn and get prepared for Excel assessment test. Skills you learn are helpful today and in the future. You get answers to your questions. You have opportunity to help other people. And you have experienced professionals who already subscribe to this channel and ready to help you with any answers that you need. And now let's continue and get you ready for the test. Here's Excel test questions to help better understand your knowledge of the user entries. How can you restrict users to only select the options from drop-down on a specific cell or range? And then there are 4 choices: conditional formatting, data validation, protect worksheet, protect workbook. Which one do you think is the right one? Data validation is the feature of Excel that used to restrict the values for the particular cell. For example, in the cell B8, if I click the drop-down box, you see only the choices, 5 choices of the products listed in the column A here. And they all gathered from the cells A2 through A6. To configure data validation, you need to select the cell and then go to Data tab and click on the Data Validation. And then based on the choices I've used to configure, we allow values from the list. So that's my limitation, that I only allow users to do the list. And then the source range is A2 through A6, which exactly matches here values of Apple iPhone to PS4. So as you might have figured out, the correct choice is data validation because other choices are designed to trick you. Like conditional formatting is used to format cells based on a specific condition. Worksheet protection is used to restrict user from editing a range or a cell. And then workbook protection is used for restricting users from altering the workbook structure. So B is the correct choice. Hopefully you've got this one right. So can you tell us how many questions did you answer correctly? Please post in the comments of this video to share with others. And now let's continue and get you ready for the test. Thanks for watching. Hope you have learned something and had fun at the same time. Please make sure to check out my other relevant videos. I know they helped a lot of people and I'm pretty sure they will help you as well. Please consider premium resources from our ebook store at howtoanalyzedata.net. It has tons of resources to help you get ready for the interview and assessment test. Also, please make sure to check out for relevant downloads in the description of this video. If you find a mistake in my recommendations, please do not judge us too harshly, as we are only trying to help, but mistakes are unavoidable. Please post the correct answer in the comment section of this video to help people succeed in the test. Take a moment and click the subscribe button at the bottom of the screen and make sure to like, share, comment, and ask me any questions. I am happy to answer every question I receive. All the best on your interview and assessment test.